operation is the extermination of the Gaza population. In a way, Hamas is a pretext. And because when the Israeli propaganda and the Israeli official statements talk about eliminating Hamas, they really phrased it in terms of eliminating the entire national and social and human infrastructure of Gaza. And all of the policies that they're carrying out, from the use of depleted uranium weapons, which are attacking the very DNA structure of the Palestinian people in Gaza, to not allowing medical personnel to be treated, to withholding medical supplies, to now not accidentally, what I think are being treated as accidents in terms of taking out UN drivers, I believe is a deliberate policy to promote the overall purpose of the operation, which is extermination, i.e., they have turned, by cutting Gaza into two and more, Gaza into a concentration camp, and are now engaged in a process of extermination of what they consider to be the inmates of that concentration camp, who in their terms they see as subhuman because they believe they have entitlement to that land. And we are dealing with a rogue nation. We are dealing with a rogue nation here on the planet. Now, we also spoke previously that it was the UN General Assembly, under the authority of Article 22, that had the right to bring into being an ICTI, International War Crimes Tribunal for Israeli war crimes. And it is encouraging to see that the President of the UN General Assembly, Michel Brockman, who was, again, the foreign minister of the Sandinista government between 1979 and 1990, who himself, the Sandinista government, was targeted in the same way that Hamas has been. The Nicaraguan people were targeted in this. Yes.
Alfred Labrador, we were speaking about that. Of course, if anyone wanted to take Israel to the International Court of Justice, it would have to be a state. Palestine doesn't have a state as recognized at the moment. Which state would do it?
Well, no. This is where we're not talking about the International Court of Justice. This is where the UN General Assembly, under its own authority, under Article 22 of the UN Charter, would establish an international tribunal for Israeli war crimes and would itself prosecute Israel. And that is the movement that the President of the UN General Assembly, Michel Brockman, is moving toward now, because he sees that, number one, Israel has become a rogue nation, and number two, that the United States, principally through the agency of George W. Bush, himself an arch war criminal, is the principal party responsible for facilitating this intentional attempt at extermination of a nation. So that what the President of the General Assembly is doing now is searching for that option, which he can do under Article 22, to bring into being a tribunal which would try the Israeli head of state, the responsible cabinet ministers, the responsible generals and officers under Nuremberg principles for war crimes.
Well, we'll have to see whether that happens.
An historic moment where the General Assembly takes back power from the Security Council.
And certainly that's the topic of conversation all around the halls of the UN in Manhattan as far as we're hearing it. Thank you very much. We'll be going back to you at some stage. A level of disappointment by the Gazan population about the resistance so far after all these rockets have failed to do very much damage to any Israeli infrastructure? Or do you think that people in Gaza realize there's a longer strategic plan by the Hamas government in the sense that they're keeping their powder dry?
Well, yes, the Gazans that I've spoke to, Gazans that we go out every day and speak to, are tired. They're tired of this operation. They're tired of this whole madness going on, and they're scared for their children. But when you ask them about whether they support the resistance or not, I can assure you, 1.5 million Palestinian civilians are supporting the resistance. They might not support Hamas, but now that the military operation is getting aggressive more and more every day, then we have the right to fight back. That's what they say. We have the right to defend ourselves. That's what they say. They are supporting the resistance because that's the only option they have.
But the only defense seems to be those, well, some people saying homemade rockets, until the Israelis actually go into the cities. And people basically, the resistance, and people who support the resistance, even civilians who support the resistance, are they just waiting for that ground assault to take place and then fight back? Because so far as we can see, the Hamas government and the Hamas army, one might call it, don't seem to have done nearly as much damage as the Israelis.
Yes, that might be true on some scale, but Israel has confirmed that it has losses between the Israeli troops. Soldiers were killed. Maybe the number is few as little numbers, like 3 or 4 as Israel confirmed, and the wounded are not more than 55 or 60. But yet there are losses. What used to be known the unbreakable army of Israel, they call it the army of defense. What used to be known to the world as unbreakable, now the facts have changed. A little resistance with homemade rockets have changed the facts on the ground. This army is not unbreakable anymore. To the whole world, this is seen. Of course, Israel doesn't confirm any kind of losses until it gets pressure from the Israeli public. Because parents are asking about their soldiers. Where are they? Why aren't they talking to us? Why are they banned to hold their cell phones? So that's why Hamas feels that fighting and holding on, yes.
Hamoudi Garib, stay on the line there and stay safe. As you said, let's hope it isn't a calm before the storm. This evening we can now go directly to New York, where Mike Mazzocco, Press TV's UN correspondent, is quite a big day at the UN, at least quite a big day for UN personnel in the Middle East who came out categorically against Israel, accusing them of international war crimes, or as close to it as I've ever heard. Mike, how was the UN in the past 24 hours in New York?
Appropriate description. At this point, the UN officials, John Ging, the UN's man on the ground in Gaza, coordinating their efforts there, just to clarify a point, says that the Israeli Defense Force has real-time coordinates for all UN convoys, all UN personnel, in addition to having the GPS coordinates of all UN installations, whether it be a school or an administrative building or a hospital. They have all of that information available to them real-time. They are saying that they are now responsible for over 1 million Gazans in terms of getting them food, humanitarian aid, and medical supplies. And effectively, as we all know now, the IDF has brought the UN's ability to function for all intents and purposes to a standstill. What the UN is saying is that they are not officially ceasing operations there, but they are saying that they are preventing any staff from movement. So that effectively makes the UN staff at wherever they are, at whichever installation they happen to be at this moment, are forbidden from leaving that installation. So you can still say that the UN is functioning, but to what extent, little to no effect is what they are saying here in New York. As I'm standing outside of the Security Council right now, just within the last 5 minutes, British Foreign Secretary David Miliband, French Foreign Minister Bernard Kouchner, and U.S. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice were shuttling down 2 floors to a conference room where all of the Arab League foreign ministers are currently